All right, y'all, so Mike Wang recently sent out this survey asking the 2K community if a defender is in perfect guarding position but doesn't put a hand up, what contest coverage would you expect on a perimeter jump shot? This post got close to 80,000 votes and is also at 1.1 million views right now. I personally voted that this shot should be considered open, and I just want to add a quick sidebar that wide open shots and open shots are very different. Open shots usually mean that a player is in the proximity but is not making a contest. 32% of the 2K community voted that if a player is not putting their hands up even though they're in perfect guarding position, the contest coverage should be considered open. 35% of the community voted that contest coverage with hands down should be considered somewhere around 1 to 5%. 28% of you guys voted a 5 to 10% contest coverage, and roughly 3% voted that they'll share their reply in the comments. So that's exactly where we'll go, to the comments. I personally left this comment saying it's strange that there's even a debate, especially on 2K26. 7-4 shooters are getting very little contests solely because players cannot jump high enough to give contest coverage upon the shot's point of release. So how are we even considering giving contest coverage to a player who doesn't even put his hands up to contest the shot? This is why I mainly believe that shot should be considered open. Maybe not wide open, but most certainly open in my opinion. The good homie Brutal Sim said it's always interesting that the realistic argument comes out conveniently. Do you all want realism or not? If it's a video game, you must make the defender do an action to counter the action of the offensive player. If they don't, it should be considered hand down, man down, open. I'm curious to know what you guys are thinking about this. Should there be a contest coverage? Should the defender get kind of bailed out with automatic contest coverage even though he didn't put his hands up? Sound off, share your thoughts in the comments. We're gonna go on over to Power DF's comment. He says, if someone is in perfect guarding position, you're not open. You might not be heavily contested, but you're still not open. Their presence should affect you. If you agree with Power DF, I definitely want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Double H said, hand down, man down, open. Power DF shares some more thoughts on this topic, saying a lot of people are being misleading here by twisting hand down, man down into hand down, man open. Hand down, man down means if you don't put your hands up, the shooter will punish you and still green. It does not mean the shooter is wide open or that your presence can't affect the shot. It means you aren't contesting as well as you could. And this is the exact point that I wanted to put emphasis on, along with what Brutal Sim had to say in defenders having to perform an action in order to counter the offensive action. Here's how I see it. The fact is, some 2K players do get nervous by simply having the presence of a defender in their proximity when they're attempting to shoot. And this may lead to user error and mistiming their shot. But this doesn't mean that 2K should be helping defenders out by offering contest coverage when they didn't perform a counter action to the offensive action, meaning that elite shooters who are unaffected by a defender in their proximity and can recognize whether or not defenders are putting their hands up, they should continue to shoot well against these type of defenders with their hands down. My jump shot should not be affected if a defender is not putting up a counter action to my offensive action and shooting the rock. Cole the Man said, hand down, man down, open. Spillboy with 2K Labs says somewhere open and between 1 and 5%. And Big Heck Entertainment makes a good point here by saying, 5 to 10% is still greenable. Why we tripping? iPod King Carter said open. Pirate DF said 10%. And going back to Big Heck's comment here saying 5 to 10% is still greenable. Why we tripping? This is facts. But what worries me, what if 2K starts making 5 to 10% more impactful on the shooter's shot? As of right now, I personally don't even worry about a 5 to 10% coverage on my jump shots. But that's exactly where elite shooters can kind of separate themselves. If you made a player with legend shooting badges, you got nothing to worry about with a 5 to 10% contest. That Deadeye badge at a super high level, along with the shooter who knows their jump shot and has mastered their timing, 5 to 10% shouldn't be a problem. But here's another issue where things can kind of get fishy. There's a lot of people performing the crab animation. As the ball handler, you perform a dribble move that puts you in front of your defender, but oftentimes you're shooting right in the gap, a defender right in front of you attempting to close out, and a defender behind you as well. And elite shooters are known for getting into these positions, shooting in those small gaps, those small windows of opportunity. That may just become more difficult if Mike Wang begins to start messing with the contest system and the coverage percentages. This next post from Josh says, no, Mike. Don't want ghost contests, it should say open. Please remove ghost contests. I've been getting quite a few ghost contests from the latest update. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing the same thing. Share your thoughts in the comment section below if you have experienced ghost contests since the last update. And in the most recent update, I've noticed that shot contests have been a bit more erratic, and that could be due to like playing against different players with different badge levels and different perimeter defensive attributes. Swansea said 5 to 10%. I'm really surprised that Swansea put that. He says really depends on the badges too. You probably should have mentioned. The whole world is brainwashed thinking shots like that are open. If a great defender stands directly in front of you in the NBA, they're automatically missing more because of intimidation and being contested. When you see players play outside of games, they make so many shots in a row wide open, and bad shooters shoot like gods, but they never perform like that in game because they're intimidated and contested. Not saying you shouldn't be able to make it, but it should alter your green window. The fun and the skill gap should be focused around who can actually get open and take high IQ shots, not exploit the shot contest system that doesn't always put your hands up, switch hands on contests, forces you to lower your hands so they can shoot over you easier, etc. And he makes a good point here, and I didn't even consider that up until this point reading Swansea's comment. It's facts that oftentimes defenders are out there and they're attempting to put their hands up, but for some reason 2K doesn't allow them to do that. And where me and Swansea's opinions on this matter differ is mainly in the idea on how skilled the shooter actually is. Elite shooters with elite shooting attributes and elite shooting badges wouldn't even care about a defender's presence if their hands aren't up. But there's NBA 2K players right now who quite often get scared of a defender's presence and in turn will make a user error when trying to shoot in front of that defender. And for me, that's what it basically boils down to, how skilled the shooter actually is. And does the shooter get affected by the presence of a defender? But that should all stay within the confines of user error, user timing, and the skill of the user. Going back to what Bruce said, the defense needs to provide a counter to the offense. If the defense fails to provide a counter, then the offense should capitalize. Glock 19 says no hands up open, hands up in positioning, yellow red, depending on perimeter D rating. We shouldn't have to jump as much as we do, and that's what I think the core issue that's going on here on NBA 2K26. Too many players are being forced to jump to even offer a contest. I will say, since the update on my 6'4" build, which is not a perimeter defender, he has been getting more hands up type of contests, 15-20% contests with hands up. So I could only imagine you 6'8" and you 6'9" contesting some of these jump shots. A Cardi said standing there doing nothing, no contests. Holding the right stick up equals a small contest, but can still be shot over by elite players. Jumping with a high challenger equals boxed. Swag Golly, he shared these images of a Carmelo Anthony shooting in the NBA, and he shows how Carmelo Anthony's jump shot is affected by the presence of a defender. On the left side, you see Carmelo Anthony's natural form in a jump shot, and on the right side, you see how much his form has changed by the presence of the defender in front of him. The only way that I would consider a defender's hands being down and it affecting my shot is if that defender is very much taller than the shooter. A 7-footer standing in the presence of, say, like a 6'2" to 6'4" type of point guard, maybe and quite possibly I can see that type of player altering the jump shot of a shooter. But then there's another caveat to add to that, where taller players don't have nearly as much perimeter defense, and they're lacking the perimeter defensive badges. Hank the Tank said, open, don't reward people for playing bad defense, and that's what I feel like is happening here. If a defender wants a steal, they should be performing an action, either a blitz or pressing the steal button. If a defender wants a contest, they should have to perform an action on the shot. If they fail to perform that action, then their shot should be considered open. 2K26 has proven that we no longer need training wheels. We don't need 2K's assistance in this matter. At least that's my opinion. If you guys are tired of running with randoms and you're looking for players to run with on NBA 2K, come on out and join the AllCity 2K Discord. The link will be in the description below. Find players and get runs now. Drop a like and drop a sub on your way out. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Easy, y'all.